This video is not political. Not. Thank you. What is up, the Motorbikes gang? It's the guy. You know, the guy who says everything in a serious manner so you don't know whether he's serious or not. I have schizophrenia. Playing Horizon Forbidden West is like watching porn, but for the story. I'm serious. You come for the action, but every few minutes it just cuts to the mailman talking about his feelings and how he's struggling to pay rent. This game, man. This fucking game is a masterpiece at wasting your time before letting you fight giant robot dinosaurs, which only happens between cutscenes, which feature Aloy who's super fucking hot, but the cutscenes are super boring. Originally this video was supposed to be a long one, you know, because I was ready to give this game a fair chance. But I cannot stand Horizon Forbidden West is a resource gathering, arrow crafting, resource gathering, boring open world mechanics having, resource gathering, awesome f***ing robot dinosaurs fighting, woo! Resource gathering with people talking, resource gathering, running out of arrow mid-combat so you have to pause the game and craft arrows which kill the entire pace of the battle simulator. Developed by PlayStation's in-house slave studios, more specifically Guerrilla and Nixxes Software, whom I'm sure Sony is working to the bone in order to crank out these Oscar-bait titles year after year. Quick discussion on PlayStation games coming to PCs. I do believe that Sony is willing to release their games on Steam after 4 or 5 long years is not a purely financial but also a marketing strategy. If you're wondering why Sony is giving up some of their biggest flagship titles on their biggest console ever, here are my theories. The first reason is because these games have been out for such a long time that the sales on consoles have dwindled to nothingness, so might as well squeeze a little bit more out of them on PC. The second reason is basically for marketing. Let's look at Spider-Man for example, arguably one of the biggest releases on PlayStation in recent memory. Shortly after its release on Steam, Sony announced the second game, so people who played it on PC would think to themselves, wow, such a good game, I want to play the sequel now. Too bad it's only on PS5. This makes people more inclined to get a PlayStation. Same thing will happen with Ghost of Tsushima, a game which I would play the absolute out of when it eventually comes out in May. When Ghost of Tsushima comes out on PC, Sony will undoubtedly announce the second game, which will then trick a bunch of people into buying a console at the end of its lifespan. Plus, I think companies are making more money from game subscription services than console sales nowadays. Just look at Xbox Game Pass for example. So it's only wise to move away from the anti-consumerism practice of forcing people to buy a piece of plastic that will eventually become obsolete after 5 years or maybe 10. I wouldn't know, because I'm not a console fanboy and do indeed take regular showers. Back to Forbidden West. The game was released onto PC on March 21st, 2024, right around the time of Dragon's Dogma 2's absolute ceaseless discharge of a release on Steam. By the way, this game had a bunch of problems on Steam as well as on the PlayStation on release, which is inexcusable. You know, they should stop releasing unfinished products and then patch up the your mom-sized holes after vacuuming up your $70 plus DLCs. This practice is somehow considered acceptable by Americans nowadays. So, after the glowing praises the first game received, how does the long-awaited sequel stack up? Well, like them tofu buildings in China. It looks good enough on the outside, but as soon as you touch it, the whole thing crumbles into dust and smithereens. The game did receive universal praise from multiple game review outlets, however. Not that these are really trustworthy or anything. True to its name, Horizon was forgotten a few weeks after release, though gamers and critics alike agree that the game. Let's be honest, we all know why you're here. And if you somehow miraculously missed all of the marketing material that Sony tried to shove down your throat, I got 2 words for you. Giant robot f***ing dinosaurs. When you play this game, you play for the combat. And the robot stuff is not just a gimmick either. Unlike those Bella Porch TikToks, there's actually some content in here. See, the creatures you fight are mechanical, and machines have different parts. Each of these parts serve a different function. This means in combat, you can individually target these parts to weaken, disarm, or just downright deal critical damage to the enemies. There's a thick and creamy layer of strategy here that's really fun to engage with. if you are willing to do so. And the variety of enemies is nothing to scoff at. Creatures and humans of all shapes and sizes roam the Forbidden West, just waiting for you to disrupt their natural habitat and systematically cause their extinction. I suggest slightly bumping up the difficulty, because on normal you can just half-heartedly plow through the enemies with normal attacks. In most cases, upping the difficulty would be a bad idea, because enemies just get a health boost to artificially extend the game length, but Forbidden West gives you plenty of tools to experiment with, so more health means you are forced to utilize these tools and actually play the game. Additionally, with the exception of a few, the dinos you fight also carry on them resource packs, which are apparently valuable? I couldn't really tell, because the game did a poor job explaining them to me. Or maybe they did, but my brain was already in autopilot mode at that point. But I digress. You see, when games like these offer you the ability to perform impromptu colonoscopy by shoving an entire spear up a dinosaur's ass, people tend to ask why they wouldn't just do that all the time. Firstly, ew. Secondly, aside from being a pussy question asked by default preset character creation people,
gang gang, gang gang,
the valuable resource packs get destroyed when you kill enemies from stealth. There's no other way to get these aside from fighting these monsters mano a mano. You're essentially asked to weigh the pros and cons of how you choose to engage with the enemies. One of the biggest advantages that the open world offers here is that you have a large variety of ways that you can choose to approach each combat encounter. Unstructured they might be, but still a lot of fun. The world really feels alive when you are willing to immerse yourself in it. And speaking of, this ain't that boring, slow-paced tactical shit. This is adrenaline pumping, high intensity, high on the spectrum type shit. This is chopping up a dinosaur with a giant blade made out of its children type shit. Or Sneak can carry 7 weapon types, each with their own unique uses and attack patterns. And you have a variety of arrows with different elements that you can utilize and combine with the extensive melee combo system, and you have yourself a play style of sorts. Wait, before we move on, can we appreciate the effort they're putting into naming these weapons? Shit like the Blastling, Shredder Gauntlet, and the Suppressor is exactly why I play video games in the first place. Regardless of their names, your weapons range from throwing shit at the enemies to throwing shit at the enemies, but in a cooler way. The Blastling is a slingshot which you use to shoot energy balls at the enemies. The Shredder Gauntlet? Saw blade boomerang. What kind of shit were you on, man? And where can I get some? And what is the suppressor, you ask? That is when you press the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. In addition to your 7 weapons, Aloy also has mini rockets strapped to her butt cheeks, because the woman just glides across the screen every time I press the dodge or the slide button. This is done to offset the fact that the creatures you fight are able to move just as quickly as Aloy, if not quicker. And you can just straight up rip out the dinosaur's body parts and use them as heavy weapons. F***ing metal. And this is undoubtedly the most fun part about this game, right? The combat. But these are spread further apart than your mom's ass cheeks. because of the fucking boring cutscenes and resource gathering. Admittedly, I feel that they could have gone with something a little bit more extreme and creative. But since we're looking at a society where people are still bashing each other's heads in with rocks tied to the end of stick, I feel like the devs have made the most out of their weapon selection. It could have been crazier, that's all I'm saying. What I'm not trying to say, however, is the game suffers from one of the worst cases of open world titles I've ever seen. The Ubisoft-style checklist open world gameplay that wastes your fucking time on unnecessary shit and call it content. Not a single iota of thought was put into justifying these mechanics either. I guess because Aloy is a hunter and that's what hunters do. But if I wanted to feel real tedium and boredom and torture, I could just go back to my real life job. But then I can't hunt people with a bow and arrow, can I? Say what you want to say, but the devs truly made sure that this game is all-inclusive. They have included every fucking mechanic in this game. You got your resource gathering, arbitrary crafting mechanics, useless weapon upgrades, as well as uninteresting collectibles. They even have the boring, repetitive side quests with quirky side characters down to a T.
I even got my own back. Yes, I did.
I'm listening.
When I made his meal, I used 3 pinches of salt.
Not only do these redundant mechanics waste your time, they also work in harmonious unison to actively make the gameplay worse. Take arrow crafting for example. See, you have to manually craft your arrows in the weapons wheel. So if you run out of arrows in the middle of combat, you have to open the wheel, which slows down the game, killing the pace of the entire battle. You then simply hold a button, then wait a few seconds for the arrows to magically appear in your inventory. There's no animation, no theatrics, just mind-numbing, momentum-murdering, menu-staring, mechanical, incompetent bullshit. It's fucking pointless. And when you have to keep doing this over and over and over again, it becomes baffling how they thought to put this in the game in the first place. It's like the gameplay equivalent of those Andrew Tate shorts. They don't last long, but they waste your time and make your life worse in the long run.
Look up the highest IQs in the world, the first 10, first 20, look them up. Are they men or women?
Highest IQ in the world, literally what comes up. Marilyn von Savant.
Then, all right, cool.
It got so bad to the point that the devs later added the option to remove resource gathering animation and make it so you can just automatically pick up items by just walking over them. Look at it like this. You know that it's bad when they added an option to downright remove an entire gameplay mechanic from their game. Seriously, the Ubisoft open world checklist gameplay design has outstayed its welcome, okay? Yeah, I mean, it was fun when it was first introduced in the past, but right now it is more of an indication of a boring and repetitive game more than anything. This checklist style of gameplay actually takes away from the experience by reducing the amount of time you spend on fighting robot dinosaurs and allocating that time to traveling around while looking at the ground and holding E. And adding to this, the number of pointless and boring cutscenes really grinds my gear. Hot take, video games should stop trying to be movies, okay, Sony? But you know, that's another discussion for another video, not right now. But just looking at this, right? Believe it or not, I'm a very patient man. I'm a teacher, for God's sake. But look at this. Look! I recorded 5 hours of footage, right? And 2 of those were spent on staring at these cutscenes of some random NPCs I don't care about, yap about shit I couldn't give less of a fuck about. 20 minutes was spent on gathering resources, by the way. It might get better later on in the game, but considering I am an adult and thus don't have a lot of free time on my hand, the game has lost me somewhere around the 10th boring cutscene mark. If I wanted to watch a movie, I just watch a movie. They try so hard to make you care about these characters that seem to be friends of Aloy before she just straight up abandoned them. But our girl, Aloy herself, doesn't really seem to care about these fucking people. Gotta be a strong and independent woman, am I right? And if you don't choose the option to ask them about their lives, these people might as well be strangers. Well, in their defense, you might have some emotional attachments with these characters if you play the first game. But if this game can make us connect with them on its own merits, then I think something has gone wrong somewhere along the line. Oh, and speaking of strong and independent women. Regarding the controversy... Regarding the controversy surrounding this game. Say what you want to say, but I'm pretty sure that this game is not woke. Yes, I know. They made Aloy's face bigger to resemble the average woman or something. I couldn't really give much of a damn. And I don't think the average woman looks like a fucking goddess. But maybe that's because I live in Asia and we don't have 40% national obesity rate. Plus the women here all look like them shrivel up catwalk supermodels. Where was I? Yeah. Though Aloy's handsome Squidward face does look disproportionate to her tiny stick-like figure, it doesn't detract much from her character design. This might be unhinged, but hear me out, okay? The reason that this game is not woke is because Aloy has no armpit hair. No, I'm f***ing serious. Sit the f*** down! Have you seen those people who dye their armpit hair 7 colors of the rainbow? If they wanted to be woke, they would have put that in the game. I mean, they went to the effort of rendering Aloy's individual strands of face hair, and a woman traveling for months in the wilderness, fighting dinosaurs on a day-to-day basis just to survive, would certainly not care about some hair under her arm, right? Plus, Aloy is a bit of an anti-social loner herself, so in theory she wouldn't care much about social norms. So the fact that they chose to cater to the modern beauty standard is the telltale sign that this game is indeed not woke. I rest my case. Or maybe rendering armpit hair would unnecessarily take up resources. But then they could just make a simple texture like in Blue Eye Samurai, so that's no excuse. The point is, how's that red armpit hair mod coming along, huh? Any progress? Look, as far as I'm concerned, if shoving a tongue up somebody's asshole and licking their intestines is okay, then having a little hair under your arms is okay. Okay? What am I talking about? Oh yeah, the game looks great. Phenomenal even. The one advantage that Horizon Forbidden West has over other games is the art direction. The game is very colorful, the creature design is extremely creative, and the character design is top-notch. I've seen people share some downright surreal sights they've captured in photo mode. And even in the lowest graphical settings, the gameplay seems to improve my eyesight instead of ruining it. There's this one tiny problem with the graphics though, and that's visual clutter. Look, I appreciate the graphical fidelity and photorealism thing they've got going on with AAA games nowadays, but I think Sony is stuck in a perpetual dick measuring contest with nobody at this point, competing to see who has the best graphics with every single big release. I mean, don't get me wrong, good graphics is cool to look at, but do they have to cram as much visual clutter as possible into every single frame ever? Look at that shit. Look, it's freaking ridiculous. And I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking at here. Where the fuck am I supposed to go? And of course the devs know that we're not gonna be able to see anything since they highlighted the exact path you have to take with bright yellow paint. And if you somehow miss that, there's a scan button to show you exactly where to go and what to do. I mean, just come on. It's either they know that or they're just calling us stupid and comparing our intelligence to that of monkeys at this point. In Forbidden West, you play as a cursed woman, roaming around a post-apocalyptic tropical wasteland filled with all manners of extremely unique and intriguing creature designs, straight out of the wet dreams of Anthem's concept artist. Remember that game? Well, I do, mostly because of the atrocity that was the gameplay review with fake voice chat. Realistically, you would have heard some racial slur 2 minutes into the video. or a call out akin to the, "It's over there." Where? Over there. Now, if you're wondering what curse our main character is inflicted with, let me take a minute and explain. Spoilers for the first game. If you don't want to have spoilers for the first game, please skip to this part of the video right now. Spoiler alert, please. Spoiler alert. You see, as you learn from the first game, our main character doesn't really have parents. She's in all regards a clone. Her DNA was taken from a woman called Elizabeth with a T, who is the only one that could potentially save the post-apocalyptic Earth that we're on. And it is this woman that brought the curse upon our character. It all started on the occasion of her birth. In a momentous lapse of judgment, Elizabeth made a blunder that would leave unforeseen consequences and lasting trauma on our heroine. In her infinite wisdom, Elizabeth named her Aloy. Aloy, forever dooming her to be made fun of by YouTubers such as yours truly and native English speakers. It is also an insult to authors and writers around the world trying to make a name for themselves. An under-the-grave turning ordeal, as I like to call it. I mean, this is around the level of Fire from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2.
You can call me Fire.
Not quite as bad, but enough to iron out some of those wrinkles in my brain and push some involuntary air out of my nostrils every time I think about it. And that is how our character defeated the 5 machine gods to stop Earth from transforming into a giant robot pterodactyl and devouring the moon. Contrary to the Purple experience, the development of this game doesn't really include any juicy, career-ruining trauma that is worth mentioning. What's worth mentioning, however, is that the game took 5 years to produce and has a mind-wrecking budget of $212 million. This effectively makes it one of the most expensive games to ever be developed. And judging by the quality of the game, I can see where that money went. Looking at this list provided by Wikipedia, we can also see that most of these expensive games are on the PS4 and 5. Look, I know it's a joke at this point, but just imagine how many starving African children can be fed with the amount of money Sony is pouring into siphoning wealth and grey matter from overprivileged people with too much money to spend. Hope you enjoyed the video! Was this whole thing an excuse for me to talk about Aloy's armpits hair? Should you play the game, do whatever the f you want, man. You're asking me for your money, right? Horizon Forbidden West is a great game. The caveat being that you have more than a lot of free time on your hand and wouldn't rather watch a movie instead. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a comment. I'll make a video answering them, okay? Watch my other videos here, subscribe to the channel here. Subscribe and stay tuned to witness my gradual descent into insanity. I sincerely thank you for watching. See you guys in your sleep.